What if everything we thought we knew about ancient history was just the tip of the iceberg? Picture this: massive stone structures built with precision that defies the technology of their time, artifacts that hint at lost knowledge, and entire cities that vanished without a trace. These aren't plot points from a fantasy novel. They're real mysteries left behind by civilizations long gone, puzzles that still stump historians, archaeologists, and scientists today. The deeper we dig, the more we realize how much of the past remains shrouded in shadows, whispering secrets we've yet to fully uncover. Think about the last time you stood in awe of something ancient: a crumbling ruin, an artifact behind glass, or even a story passed down through generations. There's a thrill in realizing how little we truly understand about the people who came before us. How did they achieve feats that seem impossible even by modern standards? Why did they build monuments aligned with stars we've only recently mapped? What compelled them to create works of art or engineering so advanced they feel out of place in their own time? These questions aren't just academic, they tug at something deeper inside us, a primal curiosity about the gaps in our collective story. That's exactly what we're diving into today: 25 of the most baffling, jaw-dropping wonders from the ancient world. From the eerie precision of megalithic structures to cryptic artifacts that seem to hint at forgotten technologies, each one challenges the boundaries of what we believe is possible. This isn't just a list, it's a journey through time, a chance to explore the edges of human ingenuity and the mysteries that refuse to be solved. So if you're ready to question what you've been taught, to let your imagination roam through the ruins of the unexplained, then you're in the right place. Strap in, because history is about to get a lot more interesting. Let's start with one of the most iconic and debated wonders of the ancient world: the Great Pyramid of Giza. This colossal structure isn't just a tomb, it's a masterpiece of precision that still leaves experts scratching their heads. Built over 4,500 years ago, the pyramid's base is almost perfectly square, with sides that align almost exactly with the cardinal directions: true north, south, east, and west. The margin of error, less than 1/15 of a degree. To put that into perspective, even with today's advanced technology, achieving such precision would require laser-guided tools and satellite mapping. Yet somehow, the ancient Egyptians managed it using nothing but rudimentary instruments and the stars above. The alignment isn't the only mind-boggling detail. The pyramid's dimensions encode mathematical constants, like the ratio of its perimeter to its height, which mirrors the value of pi. Some researchers argue this couldn't be mere coincidence. It hints at a sophisticated understanding of geometry, far beyond what we typically credit to ancient civilizations. And then there's the astronomical aspect. The pyramid's shafts align with key stars in the Orion constellation, which held deep religious significance for the Egyptians. Was this intentional, or is it another layer of mystery we're still unraveling? The real controversy lies in how they did it. Without the wheel, without iron tools, without modern engineering knowledge, how did they transport and place 2.5 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, with such flawless accuracy? Theories range from lost technologies to advanced astronomical knowledge passed down from even older cultures. Some even speculate about external influences, ideas so provocative they border on science fiction. Yet, despite centuries of study, no single explanation fully satisfies all the questions. The Great Pyramid stands as a silent testament to human ingenuity, daring us to reconsider what ancient civilizations were truly capable of. What's most striking isn't just the precision itself, but the sheer ambition behind it. This wasn't just a building project, it was a statement, a bridge between earth and sky, crafted with a level of care that suggests the builders knew exactly what they were doing and why. Whether it was divine inspiration, forgotten science, or something else entirely, the Great Pyramid refuses to give up all its secrets. And that's what makes it the perfect beginning to our journey through the unexplained wonders of the ancient world. From the scorching sands of Egypt to the misty plains of southern England, our next wonder shifts focus to a monument just as enigmatic, Stonehenge. This circle of massive standing stones, some weighing over 25 tons, has stood sentinel for over 4,500 years, silently guarding its secrets. Unlike the Great Pyramid, which at least comes with inscriptions and a clear cultural context, Stonehenge offers no written clues, just silent, weathered stones arranged with deliberate precision. And that's what makes it so endlessly fascinating. What was it for? A temple, a calendar, a burial ground, or something we haven't even considered? The most enduring theory is that Stonehenge functioned as a giant astronomical calculator. During the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the heel stone, casting its first rays directly into the heart of the circle. This isn't just poetic, it's mathematically precise, suggesting the builders had an advanced understanding of celestial movements. Some researchers argue the entire layout maps key solar and lunar events, turning the site into a Neolithic observatory. Imagine standing there 5,000 years ago, watching the stones frame the exact moment the sun reached its highest point, marking the turning of the seasons. It must have felt like magic, or perhaps like science we've only begun to decode, but not everyone agrees. Another camp believes Stonehenge was primarily a sacred space for rituals and the dead. Excavations have revealed human remains, some showing signs of trauma, hinting at possible sacrificial or funerary rites. The blue stones, smaller rocks transported over 150 miles from Wales, are thought to have healing properties, leading to theories about the site being a pilgrimage destination for the sick or wounded. Then there's the acoustics. Experiments show the stones create eerie echoes and sound distortions, suggesting ceremonies involving chanting or music. Was it a place where the living communed with ancestors, or where healers worked their arts under the watch of the gods? The real challenge is that Stonehenge wasn't built in one phase. It evolved over centuries, with each generation adding new layers of meaning. Early versions were simple earthworks, later replaced by timber structures before the iconic stone circles took shape. This complexity makes pinning down a single purpose nearly impossible. Could it have been all these things: an observatory, a temple, a cemetery, woven together by a culture that saw no separation between science and spirituality? What's undeniable is the sheer effort involved. Transporting those blue stones from Wales would have required ingenious methods, possibly involving sledges, rafts, and raw manpower. The larger sarsen stones, dragged from 20 miles away, each required hundreds of people to move. This wasn't just construction, it was a communal act of devotion, a project spanning generations. That alone speaks volumes about how important Stonehenge was to the people who built it, even if, thousands of years later, we're still piecing together why. The stones don't give up their secrets easily. Every discovery leads to new questions, and that's the magic of this place. It's not just a relic of the past, it's a conversation across time, inviting us to reconsider how ancient societies saw their world. Whether as a celestial clock, a spiritual sanctuary, or something beyond our modern frameworks, Stonehenge remains a haunting reminder of how much history is still written in a language we don't fully understand. Now we journey from the misty fields of England to the arid deserts of Peru, where an entirely different kind of ancient wonder stretches across the landscape: the Nazca Lines. Etched into the dry plains over 2,000 years ago, these enormous geoglyphs form intricate designs so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. Hundreds of perfectly straight lines crisscross the desert like ancient runways, while massive depictions of animals, plants, and geometric shapes sprawl across the earth, some as long as 1,200 feet. How did a culture with no known aerial technology create such precise, sprawling artworks, and why? The sheer scale of the Nazca Lines defies logic. Some of the straightest lines run for miles without deviation, maintaining perfect alignment despite the rugged terrain. Even more astonishing are the animal figures: a hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider with unnervingly accurate anatomical details, a monkey with an intricately coiled tail. These aren't rough sketches, they're masterpieces of proportion, as if the artists worked from an overhead blueprint. Yet from ground level, the lines appear as little more than shallow grooves in the earth. It's only when you rise above them that their true grandeur becomes clear. So how did the Nazca people achieve such precision without ever seeing their work from above? One prevailing theory suggests they used simple tools and meticulous planning. By driving stakes into the ground and connecting them with ropes, they could have scaled up smaller designs into massive earthworks. Archaeologists have even found wooden stakes near some lines supporting this idea, but the real question isn't just how, it's why. Were these markings meant to communicate with the gods, their scale a deliberate effort to be seen from the heavens? Some researchers point to the line's alignment with celestial events, like solstices or the rising of certain stars, suggesting they served as a giant astronomical calendar. Others propose they were ritual pathways walked during ceremonies to invoke rain or fertility in the barren desert. Then there are the more unconventional theories. Could the Nazca Lines have been landing strips for, well, something not of this world? The idea might sound like science fiction, but it's fueled by the eerie fact that the lines are most visible from above, as if designed for an audience in the sky. While mainstream scholars dismiss this as fantasy, it underscores how little we truly understand about the Nazca's motives. What we do know is that creating these lines required extraordinary coordination and knowledge of the landscape. The Nazca transformed their environment into a canvas, etching messages that have endured for millennia, even as their meaning fades into mystery. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Nazca Lines is their silence. Unlike pyramids or temples, they offer no inscriptions, no artifacts, just an open-ended question in the sand. Were they a prayer, a map, or something else entirely? For now, they remain one of archaeology's most beautiful enigmas, a testament to human creativity that still whispers across the centuries, daring us to look up and wonder. Buried beneath the waves for 2,000 years, the Antikythera Mechanism is perhaps the most extraordinary artifact ever pulled from the sea. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1901, this corroded bronze device at first looked like little more than a lump of debris. But when researchers painstakingly deciphered its intricate gears and inscriptions, they realized they were holding something revolutionary, a hand-powered mechanical computer capable of predicting celestial events with astonishing accuracy. The genius of the Antikythera Mechanism lies in its complexity. With over 30 interlocking bronze gears, it functioned like an ancient analog calculator, tracing the movements of the sun, moon, and planets across the zodiac. Turn the handle and dials would spin to display lunar phases, eclipse timings, even the dates of upcoming Olympic Games. The level of precision is staggering. Some of its gear ratios align perfectly with the cycles of celestial bodies, like the moon's subtle wobble in orbit, a phenomenon modern astronomers call the Saros cycle. This wasn't just a tool, it was a miniature model of the cosmos, crafted with an understanding of astronomy and engineering that shouldn't have existed in the 1st century BC. What's truly baffling is how this technology vanished. After the Antikythera Mechanism, nothing of comparable sophistication appears in the historical record for over 1,000 years. Medieval European clockmakers wouldn't achieve similar gearwork until the 14th century. So how did the ancient Greeks develop something so advanced, only for its knowledge to seemingly evaporate? Some speculate it was the work of a lone genius, perhaps inspired by earlier Babylonian astronomy or the legendary inventions of Archimedes. Others suggest it was part of a broader tradition of mechanical craftsmanship, lost when libraries burned and empires fell. The implications are profound. If this single device survived, how many others like it were destroyed? Could there have been an entire lineage of ancient technology we'll never uncover? The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to reconsider the narrative of human progress not as a straight line, but as a series of peaks and valleys with brilliance rising and fading across the ages. It's a humbling reminder that history's most astonishing discoveries might still be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal their secrets. What lingers isn't just the mystery of how it was made, but why. Was it a philosopher's teaching tool, a navigational aid for sailors, or perhaps a sacred object meant to bridge the gap between human intellect and the divine order of the heavens? The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't offer easy answers, only a tantalizing glimpse into a world far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. And that's what makes it more than just an artifact. It's a challenge, daring us to rethink what ancient civilizations were truly capable of. Hidden away in the vaults of Yale University lies a book that has defied understanding for centuries, the Voynich Manuscript. Filled with looping, alien handwriting and bizarre illustrations of plants that don't exist, celestial charts with unidentifiable constellations, and naked women bathing in emerald green pools, this medieval mystery has stumped codebreakers, linguists, and historians since its discovery in 1912. Even the most advanced cryptographic techniques, including artificial intelligence, have failed to crack its secrets. So what exactly are we dealing with? A lost language, an elaborate hoax, or something even stranger? Carbon dating places the manuscript's creation somewhere between 1404 and 1438, likely in northern Italy. But that's where the certainties end. The text, written in an unknown script, follows patterns that suggest an actual language. Some words repeat like grammatical structures, others appear only in specific contexts. Yet despite over a century of analysis, not a single word has been reliably translated. Even more puzzling are the illustrations. Botanical pages depict flora with twisted roots and leaves unlike any known species, while astronomical sections show spiraling stars connected by tubes or veins, as if mapping a cosmos unrecognizable to modern science. Then there are the biological drawings, tiny womb-like chambers housing female figures, linked by intricate networks that resemble, what, blood vessels? Alchemical symbols, no one agrees. Theories about the manuscript's purpose range from plausible to fantastical. Some scholars argue it's a medical or herbal guide, its strange plants possibly encoding forgotten remedies. Others believe it's an alchemical manual, its imagery representing spiritual transformation. More controversial ideas suggest it's the work of a secret society, or even an artifact from an unknown civilization. Then there's the hoax hypothesis that it was crafted to deceive a wealthy patron, though this doesn't explain why someone would invest years creating hundreds of pages of gibberish with such meticulous detail. The most tantalizing clue, marginal notes in medieval Latin and a zodiac chart hinting at European origins, but these only deepen the mystery rather than solve it. What makes the Voynich Manuscript so captivating isn't just its resistance to decoding, but what that resistance implies. Modern code-breaking has cracked everything from Nazi ciphers to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, yet this book remains stubbornly silent. Some argue its language might be constructed, like a fictional tongue from a fantasy novel, while others propose it's a highly personal cipher, meaningless without its creator's key. The few claimed breakthroughs over the years have crumbled under scrutiny, leaving us no closer to understanding. Perhaps the truth lies in the very strangeness of the manuscript. In a world where we're used to having answers at our fingertips, the Voynich reminds us that some mysteries refuse to yield. It challenges our assumptions about history, language, and even human creativity. Was its author a genius playing with forms we can't grasp, or a madman scribbling visions only they understood? Until someone or something unlocks its secrets, the Voynich Manuscript remains a haunting echo from the past, daring us to admit that sometimes the past keeps its secrets well. In a dusty corner of the Baghdad Museum sits a collection of unassuming clay jars, small vessels no taller than your hand, each containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod sealed with asphalt. Found in the ruins of a 2,000-year-old Parthian village, these artifacts might seem like simple storage containers at first glance. But when German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig examined them in 1938, he proposed something extraordinary. These could be the remnants of ancient batteries capable of generating electric currents. The idea sounds like something out of a steampunk novel, yet the evidence is hard to ignore. Replicas built using the same materials, a copper tube, an iron rod, and an electrolyte like vinegar or lemon juice have been shown to produce around 1 volt of electricity. That might not seem like much, but string several together and you'd have enough power for small-scale applications. So what would the Parthians, or later the Sassanians who might have used them, have needed electricity for? One compelling theory involves electroplating, the process of coating one metal with another using an electric charge. Artifacts from the same era show intricate gold and silver plating on objects, work so fine that some experts argue it couldn't have been achieved without an electrical method. Imagine a craftsman in ancient Mesopotamia dipping a necklace into a solution while these curious jars hummed with unseen energy, transforming ordinary metal into something radiant. Not everyone's convinced, of course. Skeptics point out that no wires or connectors have ever been found with the jars, and no historical texts describe anything resembling electrical devices. Could they have simply been storage for sacred scrolls, with the iron and copper serving a ceremonial purpose? It's possible. But then why the asphalt seal, which would have prevented leakage unless the contents were meant to interact chemically? The debate hinges on a deeper question: how do we interpret artifacts when their creators left no manual? Without context, we're left reading between the lines, projecting our modern frameworks onto the past. What's fascinating is how the Baghdad Battery challenges our assumptions about technological progress. We tend to think of electricity as a modern discovery, yet nature has always been full of electrical phenomena, from lightning to the shocks delivered by electric eels. Is it so hard to believe ancient people observed and harnessed these forces in their own way? Even if the jars weren't batteries, their very existence forces us to reconsider the ingenuity of cultures we often underestimate. After all, the difference between science and magic is often just a matter of understanding. Whether the Baghdad Battery truly powered ancient workshops or served another purpose entirely, it stands as a testament to human curiosity. Maybe the real spark wasn't the electricity itself, but the drive to experiment, to tinker with the unknown. In that sense, these humble clay jars are more than artifacts, they're a bridge between then and now, reminding us that the quest to harness the invisible forces of the world is as old as civilization itself. Isolated in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, Easter Island is home to one of the most haunting and enigmatic wonders of the ancient world, the Moai. These towering stone figures, some weighing up to 80 tons and standing as tall as 33 feet, gaze stoically across the island, their hollow eyes holding secrets of a vanished civilization. Nearly 900 of them dot the landscape, carved from volcanic rock with astonishing precision, then transported miles across rugged terrain without the use of wheels, animals, or modern machinery. The question that's baffled researchers for centuries isn't just how the Rapa Nui people achieved this feat, but why they invested such colossal effort in the first place. The process of creating a moai began at Rono Raraku, a volcanic quarry where the island's soft, tough stone was carved directly from the slopes. Skilled artisans chiseled the statues free, leaving only a thin spine of rock attached at the base. Once completed, the moai were carefully separated and then somehow moved to their final positions along the coast, often miles away. The logistics are mind-boggling. Without draft animals or metal tools, how did they transport these multi-ton monoliths? Oral traditions speak of the statues walking to their platforms, a clue that led researchers to experiment with a fascinating theory. By rocking the statues side to side with ropes, teams could have walked them forward in a slow, deliberate shuffle. Recent experiments using replicas have shown this method is possible, though it would have required precise coordination and brute strength from hundreds of workers. But the Moai's journey didn't end there. Once at their ceremonial platforms called ahu, the statues were painstakingly erected using ramps and levers, then topped with red stone headdresses called pukao, some weighing 12 tons themselves. The ahu weren't just pedestals, they were sacred sites, often built to align with celestial events like solstices, and here's where the mystery deepens. The Moai weren't just sculptures, they were vessels. According to Rapa Nui belief, these figures embodied the spirits of ancestors, their presence channeling mana or spiritual power to protect the living. Each statue was a bridge between worlds, its back to the sea, its watchful eyes turned inward toward the community it guarded. Yet by the time European explorers arrived in the 18th century, many Moai lay toppled, their platforms abandoned. What happened? The prevailing theory points to ecological collapse. As the island's population grew, forests were cleared to make way for agriculture and to provide timber for moving statues. Without trees, the soil eroded, crops failed, and the once thriving society descended into conflict over dwindling resources. The Moai, symbols of power and prestige, may have been overthrown in this turmoil, their mana shattered. But newer research complicates this narrative. Some scholars argue that the Rapa Nui adapted, shifting from monument building to sustainable farming, and that their collapse was hastened more by European contact, enslavement, and disease than by environmental recklessness. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. What's undeniable is the audacity of the Moai themselves. These weren't just feats of engineering, they were declarations of identity, carved in stone by a people who dared to imagine the impossible. In their silent vigil, they ask us to reconsider what we know about isolation, resilience, and the cost of ambition. And perhaps that's their greatest lesson, not how they fell, but how they rose against all odds to leave a mark on history that even time hasn't erased. Deep beneath the rolling hills of China's Zhejiang province lies a network of caverns so vast and precise, they defy conventional explanations, the Longyou Caves. Discovered by accident in 1992 when a local farmer drained a small pond, these hand-carved underground chambers stretch across an area of over 30,000 square meters, their walls etched with intricate patterns and their arches engineered with near mathematical perfection. What's astonishing isn't just their scale, but the sheer uniformity of their design. Every cave exhibits identical angles, column placements, and surface markings, as if following a blueprint lost to time. Yet despite decades of study, no one knows who built them when they were constructed or why they exist at all. Walking into one of these caves is like stepping into the belly of a stone giant. The ceilings soar to heights of nearly 100 feet, supported by towering pillars spaced at precise intervals. The walls are adorned with parallel chisel marks, each groove evenly spaced, suggesting the work of artisans wielding tools with unwavering discipline. Even more baffling is the absence of debris. Where did the excavated rock go? Estimates suggest over 1 million cubic meters of stone were removed, enough to fill 200 Olympic-sized swimming pools, yet no rubble has ever been found nearby. Did the builders repurpose it for some unknown project, or transport it miles away, leaving no trace? Theories about the cave's purpose range from the practical to the fantastical. Some scholars propose they were ancient quarries, their uniformity a byproduct of systematic mining. But why carve such elaborate, interconnected chambers instead of simple pits? Others argue they were imperial storehouses or hidden military barracks, though no artifacts or inscriptions support these claims. Then there's the celestial angle. Certain cave alignments correspond with solstice sun positions, hinting at ritual or astronomical significance. Local folklore adds another layer, whispering that the caves were the work of a vanished civilization, their true meaning encoded in symbols we no longer understand. The engineering alone is a marvel. Without modern tools or even written records to guide them, the builders achieved near-flat surfaces with deviations of less than 1 centimeter over 10 meters. How researchers have experimented with replicating the techniques, finding that the chisel marks suggest a column and panel method, carving upward from the floor while leaving supporting pillars intact, then smoothing the walls in stages. It's a process requiring not just skill, but an almost intuitive grasp of structural physics. Even today, such precision would demand laser levels and mechanized tools. That a pre-industrial society accomplished this with hand tools borders on the unimaginable. Perhaps the most haunting question is why no historical text, not even ancient Chinese chronicles, mentions the caves. A project of this magnitude would have required thousands of workers laboring for generations. How could it vanish from collective memory? Some speculate the caves were deliberately erased from records, their existence deemed too sacred or dangerous to acknowledge. Others wonder if they're far older than assumed, remnants of a culture predating written history. Standing in the echoing silence of the Longyou Caves, you can't help but feel the weight of their mystery. They're not just holes in the ground, they're a whisper from the past, a testament to human ingenuity that refuses to be explained. Whether as a functional space, a spiritual sanctuary, or something beyond our modern comprehension, these caverns challenge us to rethink what ancient societies were capable of, and how much of their story remains buried, waiting to be unearthed. High in the Andes, overlooking the ancient Inca capital of Cusco, stands a fortress that defies logic. Sacsayhuamán. Its walls, built from massive limestone blocks weighing up to 300 tons, fit together so seamlessly that not even a sheet of paper can slip between them. No mortar, no adhesives, just stone pressed against stone with a precision that makes modern stonemasons shake their heads in disbelief. How did a civilization without iron tools or the wheel achieve such perfection? And why does this 600-year-old structure still stand unshaken, while modern buildings crumble after mere decades? The craftsmanship at Sacsayhuamán borders on the supernatural. Some of the stones have 12, even 14 perfectly interlocking angles, each one carved to match its neighbor with microscopic accuracy. The largest block, known as the Stone of 12 Angles, is a masterpiece of geometry, its sides cut to fit like a three-dimensional puzzle piece. Theories about how the Inca accomplished this range from the practical to the outlandish. Some researchers suggest they used simple tools like bronze chisels and stone hammers, paired with a technique called pecking, repeatedly striking the rock to gradually shape it. Others propose they softened the stone with plant acids, making it easier to carve, though no evidence of this has been found. Then there's the more controversial idea that the Inca inherited these walls from a far older, advanced culture, one lost to time. What's undeniable is the sheer ambition behind Sacsayhuamán. The fortress wasn't just a military stronghold, it was a symbol of Inca power built to awe and intimidate. According to Spanish chroniclers, construction required 20,000 workers hauling stones from quarries miles away, using nothing but ropes, logs, and raw manpower. The logistics are staggering. Imagine teams of laborers maneuvering a 300-ton block uphill, adjusting its position millimeter by millimeter until it clicked into place like the final piece of a cosmic jigsaw. Even today, with cranes and computer modeling, replicating this precision would be a Herculean task, yet the mystery goes deeper than just engineering. The walls also showcase an uncanny resilience. Peru sits on one of the most active seismic zones on Earth, yet while Spanish colonial buildings in Cusco have crumbled in earthquakes, Sacsayhuamán's walls haven't budged. The secret might lie in their design. Unlike rigid modern masonry, the stones are slightly convex, allowing them to shift minutely during tremors before settling back into place. It's as if the builders understood earthquake dynamics centuries before seismology existed. Was this trial and error, or knowledge passed down from generations of observing the land's restless movements? Then there's the question of purpose. Some argue Sacsayhuamán was purely defensive, its zigzagging walls designed to funnel attackers into kill zones. Others see it as a ceremonial complex aligned with solstice sunrises and the constellation of the Pleiades, which the Inca revered. The truth might be both. In the Inca worldview, there was no separation between the practical and the sacred. A fortress could be a temple, a stone could be a god. Every block at Sacsayhuamán wasn't just placed, it was consecrated, a physical prayer to the mountains and stars that shaped their world. Standing before these walls today, you aren't just looking at ancient construction. You're witnessing a dialogue between humans and stone, a partnership where rock wasn't conquered but coaxed into harmony. Whether through forgotten techniques, spiritual insight, or sheer stubborn brilliance, the builders of Sacsayhuamán achieved something modern engineering still can't fully explain. And that's the real wonder, not just the how but the why. In a world obsessed with speed and efficiency, these walls whisper a different lesson: that perfection isn't rushed, and that the greatest creations are those that outlast the civilizations that built them. The year was 1929 when a group of historians sorting through documents in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace stumbled upon something that would rewrite our understanding of ancient cartography: the Piri Reis map. Drawn on gazelle skin in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this seemingly ordinary navigation chart contained details so impossibly accurate that they've fueled debates for nearly a century. At first glance, it depicts the known world of its time, the coasts of Europe, Africa, and the Americas with remarkable precision. But what truly defies explanation is the section at the bottom of the map, where the outline of a landmass bears an uncanny resemblance to Antarctica 300 years before the continent was officially discovered. Here's what makes this so baffling. The map shows Antarctica's coastline not as it appears today under miles of ice, but as it might have looked if it were ice-free. Even more startling, modern seismic surveys conducted in the 1940s revealed that the subglacial topography of Antarctica matches the contours on Piri Reis's map with eerie accuracy. How could a 16th-century sailor have known details about a continent buried under sheets of ice for at least 6,000 years? The map's own annotations only deepen the mystery. Piri Reis notes that he compiled it from earlier source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Could he have been working from ancient knowledge passed down through generations, knowledge that somehow included Antarctica before it froze? Mainstream scholars offer more cautious explanations. Some argue that the southern landmass might represent a distorted version of South America, or a lucky guess based on myths of a Terra Australis. Others suggest Piri Reis pieced together accounts from unnamed explorers who might have glimpsed Antarctica's northernmost peaks. But even these theories don't fully account for the coastline's precision or the absence of ice, an impossible detail unless the original cartographers had access to geographic data from a time when Antarctica was free of its frozen shell. This is where the controversy ignites. A fringe but persistent theory posits that the Piri Reis map is evidence of a lost civilization, one with advanced seafaring or even aerial capabilities, capable of mapping the world with technology we'd consider modern. Proponents point to similar anomalies in other ancient maps, like the Orontius Phineus map of 1531, which also depicts Antarctica with shocking detail. Could these be fragments of a forgotten global survey conducted by a culture whose achievements were erased by time? Skeptics dismiss this as wishful thinking, but the sheer volume of unexplained accuracy keeps the question alive. Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the map's treatment of longitude. Calculating longitude accurately wasn't possible until the 18th century with the invention of precise chronometers, yet the Peary Rise map plots coastal distances with a margin of error less than half a degree. This suggests its source maps were created using a sophisticated understanding of spherical trigonometry, a science supposedly unknown until centuries later. Did ancient navigators possess techniques we've yet to rediscover, or were they simply better observers, piecing together the puzzle of the world through generations of patient exploration? What's undeniable is that the Peary Rise map forces us to confront the gaps in our historical narrative. It's a reminder that history isn't a straight line of progress, but a tapestry with threads we're still learning to follow. Whether it's the relic of a golden age, a mosaic of forgotten voyages, or simply a cartographic fluke, this fragile piece of gazelle skin challenges us to reconsider what ancient civilizations truly knew about our planet, and how much knowledge might have slipped through the cracks of time. Carved into a windswept hill in southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe shatters everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. This sprawling complex of massive stone circles, adorned with intricate carvings of animals and abstract symbols, dates back an astonishing 11,600 years, older than Stonehenge by 6 millennia, older than the Great Pyramid by 7. But here's what truly rewrites the textbooks. Göbekli Tepe wasn't built by farmers. It predates agriculture. That means hunter-gatherers, people we've long imagined as nomadic bands focused solely on survival, erected what may be the world's first monumental architecture. Why and how? The answers hidden in these stones are turning our understanding of human progress upside down. Walk among the T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe, some standing 16 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons, and you're struck by their eerie sophistication. The limestone surfaces ripple with bas-reliefs of foxes, scorpions, and vultures so detailed they seem to breathe. One pillar bears a haunting depiction of a headless man with an erect phallus, possibly symbolizing death and rebirth. Another shows a cluster of ducks in flight, their wings frozen mid-beat. These aren't crude scratchings, they're masterpieces of symbolic art created by hands that clearly had time to perfect their craft. That's the first clue something extraordinary was happening here. Hunter-gatherer societies weren't supposed to have surplus energy for such projects. Yet at Göbekli Tepe, they not only had the skill but the organizational might to quarry, transport, and erect these megaliths without beasts of burden or metal tools. The logistics alone boggle the mind. Workers would have needed to extract multi-ton blocks from nearby quarries using stone tools, then drag them nearly 300 yards uphill. Archaeologists estimate this required hundreds of people working in concert, a level of social coordination previously unheard of for this era. Even more intriguing, the site was deliberately buried around 8000 BCE, filled in with tons of soil and debris as if sealing away something sacred. Was this a ceremonial center where scattered bands gathered for rituals, forging alliances through shared labor? Some researchers believe Göbekli Tepe was a pilgrimage site, its construction sparking the need for large-scale food production to feed workers, effectively inventing agriculture as a side effect of spiritual devotion. The implications are seismic. For decades, we've been taught that agriculture came first, enabling settled communities that then had leisure to build temples. Göbekli Tepe flips that script, suggesting religion may have been the catalyst for civilization itself. The carvings reinforce this idea. Many pillars depict dangerous predators, lions, snakes, boars arranged in narratives that might represent myths or cosmologies. One recurring motif shows a vulture hovering over a headless human, possibly illustrating a sky burial ritual where the dead were left to be cleansed by scavengers. These weren't just decorations, they were visual sermons encoding beliefs that bound people together across generations. What's most humbling is how much we still don't know. Only 5% of Göbekli Tepe has been excavated, and already it's upended our timeline of human development. Who were these precocious builders? How did they transmit their knowledge across centuries without writing? And why did they ultimately walk away, leaving their masterpiece to the dust? The stones won't say. But they dare us to reconsider the most fundamental question of all. What if civilization didn't grow from practical needs like food and shelter, but from something far deeper, our innate hunger to reach beyond the visible world, to carve meaning into the very bones of the earth? Deep in the temple complex of Dendera, Egypt, a series of enigmatic carvings has sparked a debate that blurs the line between ancient art and speculative technology. The so-called Dendera light depicts what appears to be a giant, elongated object resembling a modern light bulb, complete with a snaking filament inside and a socket-like base held aloft by a priest-like figure. Surrounding it are figures grasping what could be interpreted as electrical cables or insulators. To some, this is undeniable proof that the ancient Egyptians harnessed electricity thousands of years before its official discovery. But is it really, or are we projecting our modern worldview onto symbols meant for something entirely different? Mainstream Egyptologists offer a far less sensational explanation. They argue the reliefs illustrate a well-known religious motif, the creation of life through the union of the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb. The bulb is more likely a symbolic representation of a lotus flower from which the sun god Ra was believed to emerge each dawn. The filament could be a serpent, a common emblem of divine energy, while the cables might be stylized lotus stems or ritual staffs. The entire scene, they suggest, is a cosmological diagram, not a technical blueprint. After all, if the Egyptians had electric lights, where are the wires, the power sources, or even a single mention of such technology in their extensive records? Yet the alternative theory persists, fueled by intriguing details. The bulb closely resembles early 20th century Crookes tubes glass vessels used to study electrical discharges, while the socket bears a striking resemblance to ancient Baghdad Battery designs. Proponents point to the absence of soot in certain underground chambers, like the crypts beneath Dendera, where torches or oil lamps would have blackened the ceilings. Could these spaces have been lit by another method? It's a tantalizing idea, but one that crumbles under scrutiny. Archaeologists note that temple ceilings often were blackened in areas where lamps were used, and the Baghdad batteries, even if functional, couldn't produce enough voltage to illuminate anything. The real fascination lies in why this interpretation captivates us. Perhaps it's the allure of lost knowledge, the idea that ancient cultures might have possessed secrets we're only rediscovering today. Or maybe it's a reflection of our own technological arrogance, assuming that advanced innovation must look like our own. The Dendera reliefs remind us that symbolism and science weren't separate for the Egyptians. A lotus bulb was a kind of technology, a vessel for the divine spark that animated their universe. What's undeniable is the artistry. Whether depicting mystical birth or miraculous light, these carvings showcase a mastery of stone and storytelling that needs no futuristic embellishment. They challenge us to expand our definitions of ingenuity, to recognize that innovation isn't always about volts and wires, but about the human capacity to imagine the invisible forces that shape our world. After all, isn't that the essence of both science and spirituality, to chase the light however it may be cast? Stretching across the French countryside like a vast, silent army, the Karnak stones stand as one of Europe's most mystifying prehistoric puzzles. Over 3,000 weathered megaliths, some towering as high as 20 feet, march in eerie alignment across the landscape near Brittany's rugged coast. Arranged in long, parallel rows that span nearly 4 miles, these stones have watched over the land for at least 6,000 years, older than the pyramids, older than Stonehenge, their purpose as enigmatic as the people who placed them here. What drove Neolithic communities to undertake such a massive project? And why does their arrangement seem to whisper secrets about the movements of the sun and stars? The precision of the Karnak alignments is staggering. The primary groupings Menek, Kamario, and Kaleskan each consist of hundreds of stones placed with deliberate spacing, their rows curving ever so slightly to follow the natural contours of the land. But it's their celestial connections that truly captivate. During the summer solstice, the sun rises in perfect alignment with several key stones, casting long shadows that seem to activate the site like a prehistoric sundial. Even more intriguing, some researchers suggest the entire complex might map lunar cycles, with certain stones marking the moon's extreme positions in its 18.6-year orbit. Imagine the patience required to observe and record such patterns over generations, then translate that knowledge into tons of granite planted firmly into the earth. Yet the Karnak stones refuse to yield their secrets easily. Unlike later monuments, they bear no carvings or obvious symbols to hint at their use. Local legends speak of a Roman legion turned to stone by the wizard Merlin, while 19th-century scholars speculated they were Druidic temples. Modern archaeology dismisses these myths, but the truth remains elusive. Were they astronomical observatories, their rows serving as a colossal calendar to track planting seasons or religious festivals? Some hypothesize they marked territorial boundaries or sacred pathways for ritual processions. Others propose they functioned as seismic predictors, their placement sensitive to groundwater shifts that precede earthquakes, an idea supported by Brittany's geology. The logistics of their construction deepen the mystery. The stones, some weighing 50 tons or more, were hauled from quarries miles away using nothing but wooden sledges, ropes, and raw human effort. Each one was carefully selected for its shape and size, then erected using techniques that still baffle engineers. How did Neolithic builders without written language or metal tools coordinate such a feat? The answer might lie in the social fabric of their culture. Karnak's scale suggests a society far more organized than we typically credit to this era, one capable of mobilizing labor, sharing knowledge across generations, and sustaining a project that likely spanned centuries. What's often overlooked is the sensory experience of the site. Walk among the stones at dawn when the low light paints them gold, and you'll notice something extraordinary: the way sound changes between the rows, as if the stones themselves bend whispers into echoes. Experiments have shown the alignments create acoustic effects, amplifying certain frequencies while dampening others. Was this intentional? Did rituals here involve chants or drumbeats that the stones sculpted into something otherworldly? We may never know, but it's a reminder that ancient monuments weren't just visual. They engaged all the senses, weaving sound, light, and landscape into a tapestry of meaning. Today, the Karnak stones face modern threats from tourism and vegetation, their silence broken by the hum of cameras. Yet they endure, stoic as ever, challenging us to reconsider the sophistication of our ancestors. They remind us that the Neolithic mind was capable of abstract thought, long-term planning, and a profound connection to the cosmos, one that didn't need telescopes or written language to map the heavens. In their rough surfaces and patient alignments, we glimpse a world where stones weren't just tools but teachers, their lessons written in earth and sky. And perhaps that's the most humbling truth of all, that 6 millennia later we're still trying to read them. High atop the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon lies a site that defies both time and logic, the colossal platform of Baalbek. This ancient complex, built by the Romans as a temple to Jupiter, rests upon foundations that have puzzled engineers for centuries. But it's not the towering columns or intricate carvings that baffle experts, it's the gargantuan stone blocks hidden beneath them. The largest, known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighs in at a staggering 1,650 tons. That's heavier than 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 jets. And it's just one of several megaliths in the quarry nearby, waiting unfinished, as if the builders simply walked away from an impossible task. How did a civilization without cranes or hydraulic machinery move these behemoths? The Romans were master engineers, but even their documented techniques can't fully explain Baalbek. traditional methods like wooden rollers and sledges would have buckled under such weight. Some theorists suggest they might have used a system of counterweights and levers, slowly inching each block into place over months of painstaking labor. Others point to the site's older layers the Romans built atop an earlier Phoenician temple, which itself may have incorporated even more ancient megaliths. Could the knowledge of moving these stones predate Rome entirely? Local legends speak of a race of giants who constructed Baalbek, while more speculative ideas propose lost technologies or sound-based levitation. The truth might be simpler, yet no less impressive: sheer human ingenuity applied on a scale we're only beginning to comprehend. The precision of the platform's masonry adds another layer of mystery. The stones fit together so tightly that not even a razor blade can slip between them, a technique eerily similar to Incan walls thousands of miles away. Why such perfection for foundation blocks no one would ever see? Some researchers believe the arrangement served as an earthquake buffer, with the interlocking design dispersing seismic energy. Others argue it was a statement of power, a deliberate display of mastery over nature. What's undeniable is the confidence behind it. These builders didn't just stack rocks, they orchestrated them, turning brute stone into a symphony of stability. Today, the quarry holds clues that deepen the enigma. Alongside the stone of the pregnant woman lies an even larger block, the Hajar al-Hibla, or Stone of the South, estimated at nearly 2,000 tons. It's partially carved, still attached to the bedrock, as if the builders were attempting something even more audacious before abandoning it. Nearby, deep grooves and channels hint at sophisticated quarrying techniques, while tool marks suggest a level of craftsmanship that rivals modern precision. Yet no contemporary accounts explain their methods, leaving us to reverse engineer their secrets from silence and stone. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how they did it, but why. Baalbek sits at the crossroads of ancient trade routes, a sacred site long before the Romans claimed it. Was this titanic foundation meant to anchor a temple to the gods, or to humanity's unshakable drive to reach beyond its grasp? Standing before these stones, you're left with a humbling thought. 2,000 years later, with all our technology, we still can't say for certain how they were moved. And that's the real wonder of Baalbek, not just the weight of the stones, but the weight of the mystery they carry. Rising abruptly from a quiet field in Elbert County, Georgia, the Georgia Guidestone stood as one of the most perplexing modern monuments of our time, until they didn't. Erected in 1980, this granite structure towered nearly 20 feet high, its 6 slabs inscribed with 10 directives for humanity, translated into 8 languages ranging from English to Swahili. The messages were stark, almost prophetic: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. But who crafted these commandments in stone? And why did their anonymity spark conspiracy theories that ultimately led to the monument's destruction? The mystery began with the Guidestone's origin story. A man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian claimed to represent a small group of Americans seeking to share messages of reason with future generations. He commissioned the monument through a local granite company, paying upfront and insisting his true identity remain hidden. The design was precise, each slab aligned with celestial events like solstices and equinoxes, while a small hole drilled through the capstone allowed sunlight to pinpoint the noon hour. On the surface, it seemed like an altruistic project, a modern-day Rosetta Stone meant to guide civilization through potential collapse, but the vagueness of R.C. Christian's motives and the eerie, almost authoritarian tone of the inscriptions fueled speculation. Was this a blueprint for a utopian future, or something darker? Conspiracy theories exploded around the Guidestones like wildfire. Some claimed the monument was linked to secret societies like the Rosicrucians or Freemasons, pointing to Christians' possible use of symbolic numerology in the design. Others saw it as evidence of a shadowy elite planning population control, noting the directive to cap humanity at 500 million, a staggering 93% reduction from today's numbers. The monument's remote location and alignment with celestial bodies only deepened the intrigue, drawing parallels to ancient megaliths like Stonehenge. Yet for all the speculation, no concrete evidence ever surfaced to prove who funded it or why. The guidestones became a Rorschach test. Optimists saw wisdom in its warnings about sustainability, while skeptics heard echoes of dystopian dogma. Then in 2022, the mystery took a violent turn. Just before dawn on July 6th, an explosion rocked the site, reducing one of the slabs to rubble. Surveillance footage captured a car fleeing the scene, but no group claimed responsibility. Local authorities vowed to rebuild, but 2 months later, the entire structure was demolished, its pieces reportedly repurposed for county projects. The timing was striking. The destruction followed years of escalating protests and vandalism, with critics labeling the monument satanic or anti-human. Some locals cheered its demise, others mourned the loss of a landmark that had put their town on the map. What lingers isn't just the question of who built the guidestones, but why they provoked such fury. Perhaps it was the discomfort of confronting prescriptive ideals about humanity's future, carved in unyielding stone. Or maybe it was the uncanny resonance of its warnings about environmental collapse, societal fragmentation, that felt too urgent to ignore. The irony is palpable. A monument meant to endure millennia lasted barely 40 years, its final message one of impermanence. Today, all that remains is an empty field and a plaque quoting the original inscriptions, words without a monument, ideas without a home. The guidestones challenged us to think beyond our lifetimes, but their fate proves how fiercely the present resists being told what to do by the past. And that might be the most revealing lesson of all. Off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, Yonaguni, lies an underwater enigma that has divided experts for decades, the Yonaguni Monument. Submerged beneath nearly 80 feet of crystal-clear water, this sprawling structure resembles a stepped pyramid with sharp, angular terraces, straight walls, and what appear to be carved staircases leading to a central plaza. The moment you see it, the question is unavoidable. Is this a natural geological formation, shaped by the relentless forces of tides and time, or the submerged ruins of a civilization lost to rising seas? The debate rages on, fueled by tantalizing clues and conflicting interpretations. Marine geologists point to the region's unique sandstone, which naturally fractures along straight plains due to tectonic activity. They argue that the monument's steps and walls are simply the result of these fractures, amplified by centuries of erosion. The strong currents surrounding Yonaguni could have further sculpted the rock into its current form, creating the illusion of human craftsmanship. Even the monument's most striking feature, a massive flat platform nicknamed the Turtle, might be nothing more than a slab of rock sheared cleanly by seismic shifts. After all, nature is capable of astonishing symmetry. Think of the Giant's Causeway in Ireland or the basalt columns of Devil's Tower. But then there are the details that defy easy explanation. Divers have documented what look like deliberate carvings, a relief resembling a human face, a series of circular depressions that mimic ancient quarry marks, and even a pair of megaliths standing upright like gateposts. Near the main structure, a straight 75-foot-long trench runs unnaturally parallel to the terraces, its edges too precise to dismiss as random. Most compelling of all is the monument's orientation. Its primary face aligns with the cardinal directions, much like the pyramids of Egypt or the temples of Mesoamerica, a design choice that feels intentional, not accidental. Proponents of the artificial theory, like marine archaeologist Masaki Kimura, argue that Yonaguni was once above water, part of a thriving culture during the last ice age when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower. They point to similar submerged structures nearby, including what appear to be roads and smaller pyramids, suggesting an entire sunken complex. If true, this could rewrite the history of human settlement in the Pacific, hinting at a maritime civilization advanced enough to build monumental architecture over 12,000 years ago, long before the advent of agriculture in the region. Skeptics counter with the lack of definitive proof. No tools, pottery, or human remains have been found at the site. The carvings could be the result of natural wear or marine life, and the roads might just be channels scoured by currents. Even the dating is contentious. While some argue the monument must predate rising seas, others note that tectonic activity could have submerged it far more recently, leaving little time for a hypothetical civilization to flourish there. What makes Yonaguni so fascinating is the tension between these perspectives. It's a Rorschach test of history. What you see depends on what you're willing to believe. For some, it's a testament to human ingenuity, a relic of a forgotten epoch when coastlines were vastly different. For others, it's a reminder of nature's ability to craft the uncanny, blurring the line between the made and the born. Diving at Yonaguni is like swimming through a question mark. The light filters down in shafts, illuminating features that seem too orderly to be random, yet not quite orderly enough to be undeniable. Maybe that's the point. Whether natural or man-made, the monument challenges us to reconsider the boundaries of possibility and to wonder how many other secrets might lie beneath the waves, waiting for the right eye to see them. Deep in the mountains of China's remote Bayanha region lies a story so bizarre it blurs the line between archaeology and science fiction. In 1938, a team of researchers led by archaeologist Kai Pu-te reportedly stumbled upon a series of caves containing rows of ancient graves, but these weren't ordinary burials. Inside lay the skeletal remains of unusually small beings, their skulls elongated in a way that defied known human anatomy. Nearby, scattered across the cave floor, were hundreds of flat stone discs, each roughly 12 inches in diameter with a perfectly round hole at its center. Carved into their surfaces were tiny spiral grooves that, upon closer inspection, appeared to be an unknown form of writing. The locals called them the Dropa stones, and if certain translations are to be believed, they might just hold the most explosive secret in human history: contact with beings not of this world. The controversy begins with the stone's alleged inscriptions. According to a later account by Russian scientist Dr. Tsumam Nui, whose very existence has been questioned by mainstream scholars, the grooves weren't decorative but a form of microscopic hieroglyphics. When examined under magnification, these spirals supposedly revealed a heartbreaking narrative. The text, he claimed, told of a spacecraft from a distant star system crashing into the mountains 12,000 years ago. The survivors, the Dropa people, found themselves stranded on Earth, unable to repair their vessel. Over generations, they intermingled with local tribes, their story preserved only in these cryptic stone records. If true, this would rewrite not just archaeology but our understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. But here's where the story fractures. No formal photographs of the original excavation exist, and the physical discs have never been made available for independent study. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss the entire account as a hoax or a case of mistaken identity, suggesting the stones might be nothing more than ancient Chinese ritual discs used in burial ceremonies. These artifacts, common in Neolithic China, often feature central holes and geometric carvings, but none contain microscopic script or references to interstellar travel. Skeptics also point to the glaring absence of the Dropa skeletons, which allegedly vanished after their initial discovery. Without bones, without stones, the tale leans heavily on second-hand accounts and a tantalizing lack of evidence. Yet the mystery won't die. In the 1960s, a handful of the discs were said to have been analyzed by scientists at the Beijing Academy of Sciences. Tests allegedly revealed anomalous properties, high concentrations of cobalt and other metals. along with unusual vibrational frequencies when exposed to electricity. Some fringe researchers argue these traits suggest artificial manipulation, perhaps even remnants of advanced technology. But again, these claims hinge on unpublished reports and hearsay, leaving the scientific community deeply divided. What's most fascinating isn't whether the stones are real or fabricated, but why the legend endures. In a world hungry for evidence of ancient astronauts, the Dropa stones tap into something primal. The possibility that our ancestors encountered forces beyond their understanding, and that history's greatest secrets might still be hiding in plain sight. Whether a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked credulity or a genuine puzzle waiting to be solved, the Dropa stones challenge us to ask, how do we separate myth from memory when the past refuses to give up its ghosts? Until those stones resurface, if they ever existed at all, their truth remains etched not in rock, but in the shadowy space between what we know and what we dare to imagine. Scattered across the rolling hills of northern Laos, thousands of stone jars lie strewn in clusters as if cast aside by giants. These massive vessels, some standing 10 feet tall and weighing several tons, form what's known as the Plain of Jars, one of Southeast Asia's most haunting archaeological enigmas. Carved from sandstone, granite, and even coral, the jars range from rough-hewn to astonishingly symmetrical, their interiors hollowed out with deliberate precision. But who crafted them and why? The answers, much like the jars themselves, remain half-buried in time. The most widely accepted theory ties the jars to ancient burial practices. Excavations have revealed human remains, burial goods, and ceramic fragments near many of them, suggesting they were used as either coffins or containers for ritual offerings. Some researchers propose the jars functioned as secondary burial sites, where bodies were left to decompose before bones were collected and reburied. This practice, observed in other cultures across the region, would explain the jars' wide distribution. Each might represent a family or clan's sacred resting place. But not all the jars contain remains, and some sit eerily empty, raising questions about whether their purpose evolved over centuries or varied between communities. Dating these artifacts only deepens the mystery. Current estimates place their creation between 500 BC and 500 CE, but the lack of organic material in many jars makes precise dating difficult. Even more puzzling is how they were made. The larger jars weigh up to 30 tons, yet the nearest quarries are miles away. Without wheels or draft animals, how did ancient people transport these behemoths across Laos' rugged terrain? Some jars still rest atop hillsides, suggesting they were carved in situ, while others appear to have been laboriously dragged uphill, a feat that would have required coordinated labor on a staggering scale. Local legends offer poetic, if cryptic, explanations. One folktale tells of a race of giants who crafted the jars to brew rice wine for a victorious king. Another speaks of ancient warriors who needed vessels to store rainwater after a prolonged drought. While these stories don't hold up to scientific scrutiny, they reflect the jars' enduring grip on the imagination. More provocative theories link them to prehistoric trade routes or even extraterrestrial visitors, though mainstream scholars dismiss these as speculative at best. The Plain of Jars also bears scars from modern history. During the Vietnam War, American bombers targeted the region, leaving vast areas littered with unexploded ordnance. To this day, less than 10% of the jar sites have been safely cleared for study, meaning most of the plain remains an archaeological minefield, literally. The danger adds a layer of urgency to research, as erosion and looting threaten to erase clues faster than they can be recovered. What's most striking isn't just the jars' unanswered questions, but their quiet resilience. They've survived monsoons, war, and centuries of neglect, yet still command the landscape with silent authority. Walking among them, you're struck by the intimacy of their craftsmanship, the way some lips are rounded for pouring, others notched as if to secure lids long since turned to dust. These weren't just functional objects, they were vessels for memory designed to outlast the hands that shaped them. Perhaps the true wonder of the Plain of Jars lies in its refusal to fit neatly into any narrative. It's a puzzle without all the pieces, a story where the middle remains missing. Were they funerary urns, water reservoirs, or something we haven't yet considered? Until more sites can be safely explored, the jars will keep their secrets, reminding us that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only pondered under the wide Laos sky. In the arid deserts of China's Tarim Basin, a discovery in the late 20th century turned the conventional narrative of Asian history on its head. Buried beneath the sun-baked earth lay a collection of mummies so strikingly out of place that they sparked debates still raging today. These weren't the expected remains of ancient Han Chinese or Mongol tribes, they were Caucasians. With their long noses, light hair, and woven woolen garments, the Tarim mummies looked like they belonged in prehistoric Europe, not the heart of Central Asia. Yet carbon dating placed them here as early as 1800 BCE, centuries before the Silk Road connected east and west. How did they end up in China? And why does their existence rewrite what we thought we knew about early human migration? The preservation of these mummies rivals even the most famous Egyptian specimens. The Tarim Basin's dry climate and salty soil created a natural embalming effect, leaving skin, hair, and clothing intact. One of the most famous, the Beauty of Lulan, still sports her chestnut-brown braids and delicate felt cap, her features so lifelike she seems merely asleep. Another, the Chechen man, wears a vibrant red tunic and leather boots, his face adorned with traces of paint that suggest ritual or status. These aren't just bodies, they're time capsules offering glimpses into a culture that blended elements from worlds apart. Their textiles, for instance, feature patterns echoing ancient Celtic designs, while their DNA links them to populations from the Black Sea steppes. What's truly revolutionary is how these mummies disrupt the map of human movement. For decades, historians assumed East Asia remained genetically isolated until much later periods. The Tarim mummies prove otherwise. Their presence suggests that Bronze Age nomads, possibly the Tocharians, an Indo-European people, traversed thousands of miles across unforgiving terrain, settling in what's now China long before recorded contact. Some of their burial sites contain remnants of cheese, wheat, and even evidence of horseback riding technologies and customs that may have spread eastward through these very migrants. Suddenly, the East vs. West dichotomy collapses. The ancient world was far more interconnected than we imagined. Theories about their origins abound. One compelling hypothesis ties them to the Afanasevo culture of Siberia, whose people shared similar genetic markers. Another suggests they descended from the elusive Yuezhi, a nomadic group driven west by the Xiongnu. But the most provocative idea is that these mummies represent a lost branch of humanity's family tree, one that flourished in the Tarim Basin before being absorbed or displaced by later arrivals. Linguistic clues support this. Manuscripts found in the region centuries later contained Tocharian, an Indo-European language utterly distinct from Chinese or Mongolian. It's as if these people carried fragments of Europe with them, planting linguistic and cultural seeds in alien soil. Not everyone welcomes these revelations. For some, the Tarim mummies challenged nationalistic narratives about China's homogeneous past. In the 90s, their display in museums drew protests, with critics accusing researchers of overstating their foreignness. Science, however, doesn't bend to ideology. Genetic studies confirm their distinct ancestry, and artifacts like their woven baskets identical to those found in Alpine Europe paint an undeniable picture of transcontinental exchange. The real lesson isn't about race or borders, but about humanity's restless ingenuity. These weren't outsiders, they were pioneers, bridging continents when the world was still vast and uncharted. The silence of the Tarim mummies is deafening. They offer no written records, no grand monuments, just their preserved faces and the everyday items they took to the grave. Yet in that simplicity lies their power. They remind us that history isn't a straight line or a series of isolated bubbles, but a tangled web of journeys, collisions, and quiet adaptations. Long before globalization, people moved, mixed, and reshaped their worlds in ways we're only beginning to understand. And sometimes all it takes is a single thread, a strand of chestnut hair, a scrap of woolen cloth to unravel the stories we thought we knew. Nestled in the rolling hills near the Bosnian town of Visoko, a series of oddly symmetrical landforms have ignited one of the most heated archaeological controversies of our time. Meet the so-called Bosnian pyramids, massive terraced structures that amateur researcher Semir Osmanagic claims are not only ancient pyramids but the largest and oldest on Earth, predating even Egypt's iconic monuments by tens of thousands of years. To the untrained eye, the steep, angular slopes of Vysotseka Hill do resemble stepped pyramids, their flat sides rising at near-perfect 45-degree angles. But are they truly the handiwork of a lost civilization, or merely the product of natural geology and wishful thinking? The debate has divided experts and captivated conspiracy theorists worldwide. Osmanagic's team points to tantalizing clues. Excavations have uncovered layers of man-made concrete blocks beneath the hill's surfaces, along with mysterious underground tunnel networks adorned with carved megaliths. Thermal imaging suggests the structures retain heat differently than natural formations, while some researchers claim to have detected energy beams emanating from their peaks. Most strikingly, the Pyramid of the Sun, the largest of the alleged structures, aligns almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, a trait shared by pyramids across ancient cultures. Could this be evidence of a global prehistoric civilization, one erased from history but hinted at in these Balkan hills? The scientific establishment remains deeply skeptical. Geologists argue that the pyramids are natural formations known as flatirons common in regions with layered sedimentary rock, where erosion carves steep triangular faces. The concrete blocks, they say, are likely conglomerate stone, a natural cement-like material formed by mineral deposits. As for the tunnels, while clearly artificial, they could be medieval mines or even Cold War military installations repurposed by later cultures. The biggest red flag: no peer-reviewed journal has validated Osmanagic's claims, and major archaeological organizations dismiss the project as pseudoscience. Yet the excavations continue, fueled by a mix of grassroots passion and outsider funding. Volunteers from around the world flock to Visoko each summer, wielding trowels and brushes in search of validation. Local businesses embrace the phenomenon, selling pyramid-themed souvenirs and hosting New Age festivals celebrating the site's alleged healing energies. It's a modern-day clash of narratives. One side sees a cover-up by elitist academics, the other a cautionary tale of how easily geology can be misread as grandeur. What makes the Bosnian pyramids fascinating isn't just their disputed origin, but what they reveal about our relationship with the past. In an age hungry for lost histories and alternative truths, they've become a mirror reflecting our desires, whether for scientific revolution, national pride, or simply the thrill of the unexplained. Whether man-made or wind-sculpted, these hills now carry a weight far beyond their mineral composition. They're a testament to how mystery, once seeded, takes root in the imagination, growing wilder with each passing season. And perhaps that's the real wonder here, not what lies beneath the soil, but why we so fiercely want to believe. While the Nazca Lines of Peru have long stolen the spotlight, Bolivia hides a far more expansive and mysterious network of ancient markings, the Sacsayhuamán Lines. Etched across the high-altitude plains near the Nevado Sacsayhuamán volcano, these tens of thousands of straight paths and geometric shapes form a sprawling web so vast it's impossible to take in from the ground. Covering an area roughly 15 times larger than their Peruvian cousins, the lines stretch over an astonishing 9,000 square miles, some running perfectly straight for nearly 12 miles across deserts, hills, and even modern roads. Yet unlike the Nazca geoglyphs, which depict animals and plants, the Sacsayhuamán lines are starkly minimalist, mostly straight tracks, concentric circles, and zigzags carved into the Earth's surface. Who created this colossal desert canvas, and what drove them to transform an entire landscape into what looks like a prehistoric circuit board? The precision of the lines defies easy explanation. Many maintain arrow-straight trajectories despite the rugged terrain, suggesting their builders used advanced surveying techniques, perhaps aligning them with distant mountain peaks or celestial bodies. Some researchers believe the lines functioned as pilgrimage routes, guiding travelers to sacred sites like the snow-capped Sacsayhuamán volcano, long revered by the indigenous Aymara people. Others propose they were part of an immense astronomical calendar, their alignments marking solstices or the movements of constellations critical to agricultural cycles. The most haunting theory that the lines were part of a ritual walking meditation, where ancient worshippers trudged for miles along these paths, their footsteps etching prayers into the earth itself. What's most baffling isn't just the scale, but the labor involved. Unlike the Nazca Lines, which were created by removing dark surface stones to reveal lighter soil beneath, the Sacsayhuamán lines were made by scraping away the thin, dark desert varnish to expose the brighter earth underneath. This required countless hands working in unison across generations, yet no tools, settlements, or even pottery shards have been found nearby to hint at the culture responsible. The lines seemed to emerge from nowhere, a communal project so vast it would have required thousands of participants, yet leaving no trace of the people who walked them. Were they the work of the Aymara's ancestors or an even older civilization lost to time? Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. Satellite imagery reveals patterns invisible from the ground, lines intersecting at precise angles, forming grids and spirals that suggest a level of planning beyond mere footpath. Some sections align with underground water sources, hinting at a practical purpose tied to survival in this harsh environment. Yet the sheer variety of shapes resists a single interpretation. Were some lines territorial markers, others celestial maps? And why do certain clusters mirror the constellations worshipped by later Andean cultures? The Sacsayhuamán lines refuse to fit neatly into any one box. Unlike the Nazca Lines, which were preserved by the desert's dry climate, Bolivia's high plains face erosion from wind and rain. That these markings have endured for centuries, perhaps millennia, speaks to the care of their creators. Walking among them today, you're struck by their simplicity and scale. No grand monuments, no towering pyramids, just endless lines stretching toward horizons both earthly and unknowable. They remind us that ancient peoples didn't just build upward, they inscribed their beliefs into the skin of the planet itself, leaving behind a puzzle we're only beginning to trace. Perhaps the most humbling lesson of the Sacsayhuamán lines is how little we understand about pre-Columbian South America. While the Inca and Nazca left behind temples and ceramics, these lines are whispers in the earth, a language without a Rosetta Stone. They challenge us to rethink what constitutes sacred space, not as something enclosed by walls, but as paths leading ever onward across a landscape where every step might have been a prayer. And in their quiet persistence, they ask, if we could see the world as their makers did, what other hidden messages might we find written beneath our feet? Buried in the dusty archives of a small Peruvian town lies one of archaeology's most polarizing puzzles, the Ica stones. Discovered near the village of Ica in the 1960s, these andesite rocks range from fist-sized to boulders weighing over 50 pounds, each carved with intricate scenes that shouldn't exist. Dinosaurs grazing alongside humans, surgeons performing cesarean sections with scalpels, astronomers peering through telescopes, even detailed maps of continents as they appeared millions of years ago. If authentic, these stones would rewrite history, proving ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of creatures extinct for 65 million years and technologies centuries ahead of their time. But are they a smoking gun of lost human wisdom, or an elaborate hoax playing on our fascination with the impossible? The debate burns hotter than the desert sun where they were found. The stones first gained notoriety through a local farmer named Basilio Ashuya, who claimed to have discovered them in caves near the Nazca Lines. He sold thousands to Dr. Javier Cabrera, a physician who amassed a private museum dedicated to their study. Cabrera became their most vocal advocate, arguing the stones were created by an advanced pre-Incan culture using forgotten techniques to preserve knowledge of their ancestors. The carvings, he noted, depict dinosaurs like Triceratops and Stegosaurus with anatomical accuracy details paleontology only confirmed in the 20th century. Even more startling, some show humans riding or battling these creatures, while others illustrate complex medical procedures like blood transfusions or organ transplants. The implication that an ancient civilization coexisted with dinosaurs or possessed scientific insight far beyond what mainstream history allows. Skeptics, however, quickly exposed cracks in the story. Under pressure in 1973, Ashuya admitted to carving many of the stones himself using dental tools and acid to create artificial aging. He demonstrated his technique for reporters, etching new, ancient designs in hours. Critics also pointed to inconsistencies in the stone's provenance. No cave or stratified layer was ever scientifically documented as their source. Radiocarbon dating proved useless since the rock itself is millions of years old, and the carvings couldn't be dated independently. Even the dinosaur depictions raised red flags. While some were eerily accurate, others mirrored mid-century textbook illustrations, complete with outdated postures like upright standing T. Rixes dragging their tails, a misconception debunked by modern paleontology. Yet the controversy refuses to die. Proponents argue Ashuya only confessed to protect himself from antiquities trafficking charges, and that his admission doesn't explain the sheer volume and variety of stones. Some carvings, they note, show dinosaurs with correct wrist positions or feathering details only discovered decades after the stones surfaced. Others depict constellations as they would have appeared during the last ice age, or landmasses like Antarctica without ice, echoing anomalies in the Piri Reis map. Could a handful of forgeries have tainted a larger body of genuine artifacts? Or was Ashuya tapping into an oral tradition or older artifacts he'd seen, inadvertently preserving fragments of truth within his fakes? The Ica stones live in the gray zone between myth and evidence, a Rorschach test for how we confront historical anomalies. They challenge us to ask where the line lies between gullibility and open-mindedness, between dismissing the improbable and embracing the impossible. Even if every stone were fake, their cultural impact is real, fueling documentaries, novels, and even pseudo-archaeological movements. They speak to something deeper than facts, our hunger for hidden histories, for proof that ancient peoples were wiser than we've credited them. Walking through Cabrera's museum today, surrounded by stones that defy chronology, you're left with a nagging question. If these are fakes, why do some details feel too precise for coincidence? And if they're real, what does that say about the threads of knowledge lost to time? The stones won't say. They just sit silent and smirking, their secrets locked in stone and in our willingness to believe. Tucked away in Sweden's National Library, the Codex Gigas looms like a relic from another world. Known as the Devil's Bible, this towering manuscript stretches 3 feet tall and nearly 2 feet wide, its massive wooden covers studded with metal fittings as if built to contain something far more volatile than mere parchment. Weighing over 160 pounds, it's the largest surviving medieval manuscript in existence, a book so heavy, it reportedly required 2 people just to turn its pages. But it's not just the size that chills the blood. Open to folio 290, and you're met with a haunting, full-page illustration of the devil himself, crimson-skinned, clawed, and crouched in solitude between 2 barren towers. How did this unsettling image come to grace a sacred text? and why does local legend insist its creator made a pact with hell to finish it in a single night? The story begins in 13th century Bohemia, where a disgraced monk, condemned to be walled alive for breaking his vows, supposedly struck a desperate bargain. He promised to write the world's most comprehensive book in one night, a feat impossible without supernatural aid. As the tale goes, the devil completed the manuscript in exchange for the monk's soul, leaving his likeness as a sinister signature. The truth, of course, is far more human and no less fascinating. Forensic analysis reveals the codex is the work of a single scribe. Its 322 pages of uniformly crisp handwriting suggesting years, not hours, of labor. The ink, made from crushed insect galls, remains startlingly dark, while the vibrant pigments in its initials, lapis lazuli blue, cinnabar red, speak of costly materials befitting a royal monastery. Yet the devil's portrait is undeniably odd. Unlike typical medieval depictions of Satan battling saints, this devil sits alone, almost introspective. Some scholars argue it's a warning against temptation. Others see it as part of an exorcism ritual meant to trap evil within the page. The codex's contents deepen the enigma. Alongside the complete Latin Vulgate Bible, it contains medical formulas, historical chronicles, and even a calendar for tracking feast days, all written in the same unwavering hand. Most eerie is the Rituale Romanum, a guide for exorcisms placed just pages before the devil illustration. Was this deliberate, a clue to the artist's intent? Even the book's construction baffles experts. The parchment, made from roughly 160 donkey skins, shows no signs of the wear expected from centuries of use. Some pages were mysteriously cut out, their contents lost forever. Were they too heretical to preserve or simply damaged by time? What lingers isn't just the mystery of its creation, but the book's uncanny survival. Wars, fires, and pillaging armies swept through Bohemia, yet the codex endured. It was seized as war booty by Swedish forces in 1648, narrowly escaping destruction when a castle fire sent it tumbling out a window, miraculously landing unharmed. Today, digitized pages allow anyone to inspect its secrets, though some still whisper that the original hums with an energy cameras can't capture. The Codex Gigas refuses to be just a book. It's a paradox, a sacred text branded with the profane, a work of devotion shadowed by myth. Whether the devil's handiwork or a monk's lifelong penance, its power lies in the questions it leaves echoing across the ages. How far would you go to leave your mark on history, and what lines would you cross to do the impossible? The Codex doesn't answer. It simply waits, its pages heavy with secrets daring us to keep turning. Deep in the hardened stone of a creek bed near London, Texas, lies an object so baffling it seems to defy the very timeline of human history. Known as the London Hammer, this small, rusted tool was discovered in 1936 by hikers who noticed its wooden handle protruding from a chunk of ancient rock. At first glance, it appears to be an ordinary 19th century miner's hammer, except for one glaring anomaly. The rock encasing it has been dated to over 100 million years old, a time when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. How could a clearly man-made object be sealed inside stone that predates humanity by eons? The answer has sparked fiery debates between scientists, skeptics, and those who believe it's proof of advanced prehistoric civilizations or even time travelers. The hammer's design initially suggests a mundane origin. Its 6-inch iron head and partially petrified wooden handle resemble tools from the 1800s, leading some experts to argue it's simply a relic from a recent mining operation that became embedded in softer sediment, which then hardened over time. But geologists who have studied the surrounding rock tell a different story. The hammer's encasement isn't loose sediment, it's a dense concretionary nodule, a type of rock that forms around an object slowly over millions of years. Microscopic analysis reveals tiny mineral threads from the hammer's iron have diffused into the stone, a process that would require deep time. Even more perplexing, the hammer's metallurgy is odd for any known historical period. X-ray scans show the iron is unusually pure, lacking the slag and imperfections typical of 19th century smelting. Where did this technology come from? Skeptics propose the hammer might be a Victorian-era tool that fell into a limestone crevice, where dissolved minerals later cemented around it, creating the illusion of great age. But critics of this theory point out that the rock's stratification shows no signs of fractures or gaps where such an insertion could occur. Creationists, meanwhile, have seized on the hammer as evidence that conventional geology's timelines are flawed, arguing the Earth is far younger than mainstream science claims. Others float wilder ideas. Could it be debris from a lost high-tech civilization like Atlantis, or an artifact accidentally left behind by time-traveling visitors? The lack of any other artifacts nearby only deepens the mystery. Why is this lone hammer the only trace of its makers? The London hammer's most unsettling implication isn't just its potential age, but what it says about the fragility of our historical narratives. If it truly is millions of years old, it would mean intelligent life, or at least advanced toolmaking, existed long before Homo sapiens evolved. That's a staggering thought, one that challenges the foundations of anthropology and archaeology. Yet if it's a hoax or misidentification, the question becomes why its anomalies resist easy dismissal. The hammer's enigma lies in its duality, too ordinary to be alien, yet too out of place to ignore. Perhaps the most intriguing clue comes from the hammer's wooden handle. Petrification typically requires minerals to replace organic material over millennia, yet portions of the handle retain their original cellulose structure, suggesting a strange hybrid of preservation and decay. It's as if the object exists between worlds, neither fully ancient nor modern. Today, displayed in a small Texas museum, the hammer continues to provoke more questions than answers. Whether a geological fluke, a glimpse of forgotten history, or something even stranger, it stands as a quiet challenge to our certainty about the past. After all, if a simple hammer can upend our assumptions, what else might be hidden in the rocks waiting to be struck? Few artifacts spark as much fervent debate as the Shroud of Turin, a 14-foot-long linen cloth bearing the faint, haunting imprint of a crucified man. Believed by millions to be the actual burial shroud of Jesus, this enigmatic relic has been venerated for centuries in Italy's Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. But is it a divine miracle or an elaborate medieval forgery? The answer depends on who you ask, and even science can't seem to settle the score. The image on the shroud is unlike any artistic rendering. It's a photonegative, a concept unknown until the 19th century, showing startling detail when reversed into a positive image. Bruises, scourge marks, even what appears to be blood from a crown of thorns. The wounds align precisely with gospel accounts of Christ's crucifixion, down to the lance wound in the side. But here's where science steps in and the debate ignites. In 1988, radiocarbon dating of a small sample placed the shroud's origin between 1260 and 1390, squarely in the Middle Ages. Case closed, not quite. Critics argue the tested sample came from a repaired section or was contaminated by centuries of handling. Later studies noted the shroud's unique flax weave matches 1st century Palestinian textiles, while pollen grains embedded in the fibers trace back to plants native to Jerusalem. Then there's the mystery of how the image formed. No pigment, dye, or brushstrokes have ever been detected. Instead, the coloration results from a superficial oxidation of the linen's outermost fibers, akin to a scorch but without the charring. Some scientists propose it could be the result of a burst of radiant energy, a theory that, while unproven, aligns with resurrection narratives describing a flash of light. Others suggest natural processes like microbial decay or chemical reactions with burial spices might have created the image over time. but no lab has successfully replicated the shroud's full complexity, leaving its formation as unexplained as ever. The shroud's path through history only deepens the intrigue. While its documented history begins in 1356, earlier hints abound. The 6th century image of Edessa, described as a cloth bearing Christ's face, might have been the shroud folded to show only the head. During the Middle Ages, it survived fires that melted its silver reliquary, leaving burn marks still visible today. Even the 3D data encoded in the image shading, an effect only detectable with modern imaging software, suggests a level of detail no medieval forger could have conceived. What makes the shroud so compelling isn't just the question of authenticity, but what it reveals about faith and science's tangled dance. For believers, it's a tangible connection to the divine. For skeptics, a testament to human ingenuity, and for scientists, an unsolved equation written in linen and light. Whether sacred relic or sublime hoax, the Shroud of Turin refuses to surrender its secrets, reminding us that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only pondered in the quiet space between proof and wonder. From the astronomical precision of the Great Pyramid to the eerie, unexplained technology of the Antikythera Mechanism, these 25 ancient wonders don't just defy expectations, they shatter them. Every corner of the world holds remnants of civilizations that saw farther, built bigger, and dreamed deeper than we often give them credit for. Whether it's the Nazca Lines stretching across deserts like messages to the gods, the hauntingly advanced Baghdad Batteries hinting at forgotten science, or the silent, watchful Moai of Easter Island, these mysteries refuse to fit neatly into our textbooks. They're not just relics, they're provocations, daring us to question what we think we know about human history. What's truly humbling is how many of these enigmas still lack answers. The Voynich Manuscript's unreadable script, the Longyou Caves' unnerving precision, the Piri Rise map's impossible geography, each one stands as a reminder that the past is far stranger than we imagine. And that's the thrill of it. These wonders aren't puzzles to be solved and set aside. They're invitations to keep exploring, to stay curious, to look at the world with fresh eyes. Because if ancient people could align entire monuments with stars they couldn't see from the ground, or carve stone with the precision of modern lasers, what else might they have known that we've yet to uncover? Now we want to hear from you. Which of these 25 wonders left you staring at the screen in disbelief? Was it the sheer scale of Baalbek's megaliths, the uncanny prophecies of the Georgia Guidestones, or something else entirely? Drop your favorites in the comments, and if you're hungry for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries, hit that subscribe button, because this isn't the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. The ancient world still has secrets to share, and together we'll keep uncovering them, one mind-bending discovery at a time. Until next time, keep questioning, keep wondering, and never stop exploring the shadows of history. Who knows, the next great mystery might be waiting for you to stumble upon.